Hello, my kitchenettes, and welcome to David's Kitchen. Today I am making a very special family heirloom cake. This is the go-to cake if there was ever a special occasion. Everybody just loves it. We called it the sponge cake, but there's several variations of it. My earliest known use of this cake was actually from my Auntie Jo, who right now is 96 years old, and she used to tell the stories about how she would make this cake for instance, my mom and dad's wedding and a couple of my other aunt and uncle's weddings. So this cake goes way back in history of the Marsella family. I remember my mom making it, or my Auntie Jo always making it for first communions, confirmations, anybody's anniversary, all these different things. This was the go-to cake, and there's different variations of it. Sometimes it was filled with a vanilla and chocolate Italian custard. A lot of times, especially in the summer, it was filled with like whipped cream and peaches and fresh berries. There's a million different ways that you can make a variation on this. I've made it before with chocolate mousse between the layers, etc. This is really a family way of saying I love you, and it is just totally from the heart when you make this cake. Today I'm actually making this cake for two very special people. It's the anniversary of our dear friend Coco Peru and Raphael. Actually, they are celebrating 14 years of being married, but actually 25 years of being together. So I feel it's an honor to go ahead and make them this anniversary cake. This recipe is for a 10-inch pan. You have to make sure that your cake pan is 10 inches and 3 inches high. You're gonna see this is a very high cake pan. Because this is a sponge cake, it's gonna come up and rise, and then you're gonna cut it twice to make 3 different layers out of it. So you wanna make sure you have a 3-inch high cake pan. And for a 10-inch cake, we're gonna start off with 6 eggs, and you need to separate the eggs. So in this one, I have 6 egg yolks, and in this pan, I have 6 egg whites. If you don't have 2 KitchenAid mixing bowls, that's fine. Just do the cake batter first, and then clean out the pan, do the egg whites, and then you're gonna fold them in. First, to the egg yolks, to the 6 egg yolks, we are going to add 1.5 cups of sugar. Basically, I'm gonna do this in the KitchenAid. We're gonna slowly put the ingredients in. To that, we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of, I'm going to use lemon because I'm going to make this cake with fruit and I want the citrus flavor. 1/3 of a teaspoon of salt, 6 tablespoons of water, and 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. So that's going to be the batter portion. Then we're going to go ahead and make egg whites. And to the egg whites, I am adding 2 teaspoons of baking powder to the egg whites. And once the egg whites are all stiff, I'm gonna go ahead and fold in the 2 batters to go ahead and bake the cake. Couple of different steps. It is really easy. It's amazingly delicious. You can really make this cake into whatever you want it to be. And let's go over to the KitchenAid and I'll show you how we put it together. Okay, my kitchenettes, the first step we're gonna do is go ahead and start mixing the egg yolks. Got them broken up. And then we're going to start gradually adding in our sugar. Once you have the sugar in, you can see it's starting to turn a little bit pale. You can go ahead and put in the salt. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put in my lemon extract. And then our 6 tablespoons of water. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it off and scrape down the sides. Once we got the sides scraped down, we're gonna go ahead and put it on low and go ahead and start putting in our flour. Once again, 1.5 cups of flour, and we're just gonna mix this until it's incorporated. All right, my kitchenettes, after everything's incorporated, this is ready. We're just gonna clean this down, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the egg whites bowl on, and then I'll show you how we fold the 2 together. Okay, my kitchenettes, now I swapped out the whisk speeder, and these are our 6 egg whites. I'm gonna go ahead and get them starting to whisk. I just love having these two bowls to switch out. As a matter of fact, I think the reason why I'd probably end up buying the second bowl was just because of making this cake. You need to have the opportunity to fold in the whites, and it's so easy just to do it when you have two different bowls and you don't have to worry about stopping and cleaning in the middle of making your cake. I'm getting this a little bit foamy here, and now I'm going to go ahead and slowly add in the 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I want to make sure it gets all incorporated and that it doesn't clump up. You know, as you can see, I'm just adding little bits of it, and it hits the beater and spreads around. And that's it. So we're going to go ahead and let this increase in speed. And I'm going to whip up these egg whites for a few minutes. Okay, my kitchenettes, we have nice firm peaks in this egg white. As you can see, it's very firm. If I hit the spatula in here and pull it up, it will hold its shape. So that's how we know this is done. I'm going to go ahead and take this off, and then I'm going to show you the magic of folding egg whites into the batter. Folding is easy to do, but if you don't do it right, you could really mess up the cake. What the folding is doing is you want to incorporate air into this batter so that it rises nice and high. It's called a sponge cake, and hopefully it works out right, and I'll show you later. Literally, when you press down on the cake, it will sound almost like a little bit of a sponge. It's just something awesome. We have our batter and we have our egg whites. You want to start by taking a little bit of the egg white and putting it into the batter, and you're going to fold it. When I say fold, you are not stirring this, folding, and that means take your spatula, go to the bottom, and come across the top. Take your spatula, come to the bottom, and come across the top. And you keep doing that, you twist it. You see I'm twisting in these egg whites as I do this, and bringing it up and flipping it over. And then once you incorporate that first portion in, you can go ahead and put the rest of it in. Just put it all in there. The eggs do their part of measuring themselves out with the half of the egg whites and half of the egg yolks, so you don't have to worry about how much of this to use or not. You just have 6 eggs, 6 egg yolks, 6 egg whites, and it makes the perfect portion. Just make sure you get it all. And now you see I have this huge bowl of the whites, and I'm just folding in the whites into this batter. And with every stroke, I can see that the batter is getting more and more light and airy because I'm folding this all in. Keep doing this until you don't see any more of the actual white, and there's no more big streaks of just batter, and that it's all blended together. Okay, my kitchenettes, as you can see, it's done. The other thing that you want to make sure you don't have are any big lumps of just egg white, because then it will kind of leave a hole in the cake, and you don't want to happen. And you also don't want to overdo this, because if you overmix it, you're crushing the little air bubbles from the egg whites and defeating the whole purpose of creating this nice airy batter. So as you can see, I have almost this full pot of batter, but it's really light and airy. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and fill our cake pan. This is, remember, 10-inch cake pan. I greased it. I used just spray grease. I lined it with parchment paper, and then I sprayed it again. And we're going to go ahead and fill this up at least halfway. There have been times where I've overfilled it and it overflowed. If that should happen to you, don't freak out. Of course, you got to clean your stove, but when it comes time to decorate the cake, you can just trim the edges. This is ready to go in the oven. It's halfway full. I hope it's going to come up well up to the top. I'm going to go ahead and bake this in a 325 regular conventional oven. You got to watch it. I'd say take a look at like 30 minutes, then 40 minutes. You're going to want to make sure that it's completely cooked through, that a toothpick comes out clean, but you also want to make sure it doesn't burn. So just be very careful. So we'll go ahead and put this in the oven, and we'll see what it looks like in 40 minutes or so. Hello, my kitchenettes. Well, the kitchen smells good. The cake's almost ready. Hopefully it will have risen pretty high. Oh, what's that sound? That's my favorite sound. Let's go take a look at the cake and see where we are. And put our glove on here. Oh wow, it is. Can you see it from there? Yes, you can. Look at how big it is at the top here. Let's see if we can pull this out. Wow, look at that, my kitchenettes. It came up over the top of the pan, so it rose higher than the top of the pan, but it didn't overflow, so it's exactly perfect. Now, this needs to cool, and because it's almost like a little bit of a souffle, unfortunately what goes up must come down, so it will settle a little bit as it cools, but we have enough height in there that as it settles and gets completely cool, we'll be able to slice it into layers to fill the inside and decorate the cake. This is the end of part 1, and I will bring you part 2 this evening. Ciao! Hello, my kitchenettes. Well, now it is time for the second phase of putting this cake together. So what I did is I went ahead and I cut our sponge cake. As you can see, it's very light. Remember I told you it sounds like a little bit of a sponge when you press down on it. So we're gonna go ahead and start with a layer on the bottom. And now we have to make the custard. Sometimes we'd make a homemade Italian custard with egg yolks and cornstarch and milk and boil it. But there's a little bit of an easier way to do that now, and that's using cook and serve pudding, not instant pudding, but cook and serve. And that's what I have here. So I made the pudding earlier today. What I did is I added a heaping teaspoon of cornstarch to the pudding mix and made it because I wanted it to be very thick. So this is actually really, really thick, not as thick as you would normally want it for pudding, but that's okay because I'm making a custard out of this. And then I have a cup of whipped cream. So I whipped cream nice and firm, and I'm gonna put in probably a nice dollop or so, as you can see, of the whipped cream into the pudding, or custard as you might want to call it, because it's very thick. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is, remember our little lesson on folding? I'm going to go ahead and fold in this whipped cream into the pudding, and that's going to give it a much lighter consistency. Just taking my time to fold this in, and it's going to really give this like a filling of like an eclair, or God, I love eclairs, or like Boston cream pie, that kind of custardy consistency. And as you can see, it very quickly incorporates the whipped cream into the pudding and gives it a really nice texture. This is what we're going to do the layers with. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and put some of our fruit. This is summertime. I know that Coco and Raphael love things with fresh fruit, so I asked them what they would like, and they said different berries, so that's what I'm going to make here. Here, what I have are probably about a cup of strawberries, a cup of raspberries, a cup of blueberries. I cut up the strawberries, left the raspberries and blueberries whole, put a little sugar in here, a little bit of water, and probably about a tablespoon of lemon juice, just to keep the fruit from losing its color. And what I'm gonna do is just gonna take a nice little spoon of this and go ahead and drizzle this fruit right here on this first layer of sponge. And I also am going to take some of this delicious juice and also add that to the layers of the sponge, because that juice really is flavorful, and it's really nice that it soaks into the layers of the sponge and makes it really moist cake. We've got that, just make sure you get it on the edges. That's our first layer of fruit. And now we're gonna go ahead and put a nice dollop of the cream. And I have my offset spatula. I'm just gonna kind of push this down and in so that the cream gets all in between the fruit. And look at that. Make sure it's nice and even. All right, you see that? Now I'm going to take our second layer and do the same thing. The other thing about this kind of a sponge cake is that it's very forgiving. So if it's not perfect on the edges, we're gonna put whipped cream and then some lady fingers on the outside to give it a really nice look. So you don't have to worry that it looks perfect. We'll be able to go ahead and fix this with the whipped cream. Let me go ahead and repeat these steps of putting the fruit and the filling, and then we'll do the top. I'll be back. Okay, my kitchenette. So I did the second layer and then the third layer. What I did, just a little secret, I turned this third layer upside down, and as you can see, I put a little bit of the syrup from the fruit to give the top layer a little bit of moisture to it. This is the end of step number one. You could go ahead and use your spatula here and smooth, sort of push in any open holes with the custard as such. But this is now going to get wrapped in saran wrap and sit in the refrigerator overnight, because the sponge cake really tastes best after it's had a chance to set with the cream on the inside, because actually this cream helps make the sponge cake more moist so that you have a really nice, delicious, moist cake when we serve it. This is ready. It is done. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this in saran wrap, put it in the refrigerator, and then tomorrow, all we need to do is make whipped cream. I'm gonna put just a flavored almond whipped cream on the outside. I'm gonna put some lady fingers for decoration and some fresh strawberries on top, and it's gonna look real pretty. I hope you have a good night, and we'll see you in the morning. Ciao. Hello, my kitchenettes, and welcome back. We are now on the final day here of making this cake. It's the next day, and we're gonna decorate the outside of it. I'm gonna do it a very traditional Italian way, the way our family did it. So as you can see here, this is the cake. It was in the refrigerator overnight. We have the layers. You recall, I cut the cake into 3 pieces. We put the fruit mixture and some of the syrup that the fruit mixture made, the custard, and let it wrap it in saran wrap and left it overnight. So what we're gonna do is, I have whipped cream. I stabilize it a little bit. So this is 2 cups of heavy whipping cream, about a half a cup of confectioner's sugar, and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, because that helps stabilize the whipped cream, especially it's the summertime, it's hot. You don't want the whipped cream to get droopy. So that's the way to stabilize it. We're gonna make this very simple. We're gonna put the whipped cream on it. Then we're going to put these lady fingers on the sides of it, which is just really soft pieces of sponge cake. After all, Coco is a lady, so lady fingers are appropriate for their anniversary cake. And then we're gonna top it with some strawberry. We're gonna get right into this, and we're not gonna be bashful with this whipped cream. I'm just gonna go ahead and start slathering the cream. I'm using this big spatula. It's okay. And just get a nice amount of cream on the sides, and I'll show you how we put the final touches on it. My kitchenette, so you can see we have the whipped cream on here. You can never have enough whipped cream, so don't worry about splurging and going overboard. Now I'm going to use my cake comb. I think I've pulled my cake comb out before on other occasions. And basically what you just do is you hold it steady and you turn the cake, and it's creating a nice little indentation into the whipped cream, just to give it a little some color on the edge here. And then across the top, I'm just going to make a little sort of shell-shaped look, semi-professional finish to it. After all, we want shock and awe when we bring somebody this cake. We're going to take these lady fingers. Oh my God, they're so good. And we're just going to stick them along the side. See what that looks like? Ah, this one is coming up perfectly. One whole set of 6 lady fingers. They stick right to the cake. The whipped cream works like our little bit of glue. Now, remember, I made this with 6 eggs in a 10-inch pan. If you think it's too much, you're maybe it's only 1 or 2 of you in your household, and you don't want to make such a big cake, reduce it. You know what? Make it with 3 eggs and use a 6-inch or 8-inch pan. The point is, definitely try to make it. So wow, look how festive those lady fingers make this outside of the cake. I asked Coco what his favorite color was, and of course in Coco style, she says natural. So I was like, do you mean nude? And so we got a good laugh out of that. But natural is what he likes, so natural is what she gets. What I'm gonna do is a little bit of green caster sugar, and I'm gonna just put the green where I'm gonna put each of the strawberries. And then what I'm gonna do is take the strawberries, try to get the strawberries even in size. I went ahead and cored them out, and just go ahead and set it on top. As you can see, you have the nice little greenery, which makes the strawberries pop. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this, and we'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, my kitchenettes, the most fun part about decorating the cake is to just have fun with it, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. And after I put the strawberries on, as you can see, it made me think, Coco and Raphael are usually in Spain for their anniversary. They love to go to Spain and spend time at the beach during the summer, and unfortunately due to COVID, they're not able to do that. So I had these little cocktail umbrella parasols, and I think they look like little beach umbrellas. I'm gonna stick 2 of them here on the cake and tell them that this is supposed to remind you of actually being in Spain. This is the finished product of our Italian cream cake. Like I said, it's a family favorite. When this cake comes out, it doesn't last very long. I'm sure that it's gonna put a big smile on Coco and Raphael's face. Wishing them a happy birthday. I hope you guys have an opportunity to make a cake for your loved ones. And for God's sakes, wash your hands. Ciao. Hello, my kitchenettes. I'm back. You don't think that I would make my family heirloom favorite cake on earth and give the whole thing away without having any for ourselves? I know better than that. I made a mini me cake. This is a much smaller version that I used some of the extra batter and made one for Steve and I to enjoy. We're definitely going to be munching on some delicious Italian cream cake tonight. Ciao. Hello, my kitchenettes. I figured you guys are probably dying to find out what this looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and cut into it and show you what the layers actually look like. I'll cut a nice chunk here. Let's see. Take my fork, pull this up. Wow, look at that. You can see all those layers of strawberry and cream and raspberries and blueberries and the custard. Like I said, it sounds like a sponge. I wish you could hear the sponge sound, but I'm going to take a little taste here. Oh my God. This taste brings back such unbelievable memories of my mom, my Auntie Jo, the family get-togethers that this cake was always the showpiece. This is a little 6-inch one. My mom used to make like a big round 12-inch one. And the way that you used to cut that is you take your knife and you make an imaginary circle in the middle, probably about this big, and then you slice all the pieces of the cake around the imaginary circle. And we always used to fight over the middle. You might call it the fillet of the cake, because that was just all the cream and oh, it was just delicious. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you do try to make it and enjoy it. Ciao.